Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is a brand new episode of the Balanced Vibes podcast. My name is Kirsten. Today, we're talking about why you may have lost weight, but you still don't have the look that you thought you would have when you lose weight. So, this happens a lot. Women get on this mission of losing weight. And what happens if they choose the wrong method of doing this is that they may end up weighing less on the scale, but they don't look too much different. Or they may look a little bit different. They may look a little bit smaller, but then they don't have that muscle definition that they thought they would have. And women call it getting toned. This is what they want. But actually, getting toned is really about building the muscle and then revealing it by reducing some body fat so that now that the muscle that you built will show. So when you say I want to be toned, then actually you are saying that you want to have visible muscle, right? So I know a lot of people absolutely hate the word toned. They're like, but this is muscle. Others don't want to hear the word muscle because they feel like toned is somehow a little bit more feminine. Honestly, I don't care what you use as long as we know what we are talking about, what your desire is. But like I said, a lot of times we are not getting there, even though we lost weight. And we might be wondering what happened because we did the work, we ate less calories, and we lost the weight. But what we see in the mirror is not that different from what it was before. So I today I'm going to share with you what you need to do to get toned. I'm going to use that term here. And also I'm going to tell you what are the things that you shouldn't be doing if your goal is to have that better muscle definition and better tone. And I will also introduce you my unique method, which I call the BFF method. And this method will help you to get that tone that you wanted to have. So the first thing that you have to do if you want to get toned is to build muscle first, because muscle is the very thing that gives you that tone that you are looking for. If you don't have any muscle and then you just lose a bunch of weight by doing whatever method that you're doing, you don't get that look because you haven't laid the foundation first, right? So this is why this is the most important thing for you. And this is also why I have all of my women that I work with lifting weights or doing some sort of resistance training, even if they cannot always lift weights. Maybe they're traveling, sometimes they're doing body weight workouts, whatever it is, you can do still solid strength training, but you have to do this if you want to change your the way you look. It is really important. So this is where I start everybody out at. And especially those who have never done resistance training or haven't done it recently, they're going to see really amazing results from first building muscle before they get to work on losing that body fat. So this is really the foundation that everybody should do if you don't want to end up being just a smaller version of you. Now, if there is a person who is already lifting, then we are already far ahead because you have that tone already underneath. Now you just have to lose some body fat and this muscle will come out. However, sometimes even with more experienced lifters, sometimes we have to tweak the programming because you have heard me talking about this a lot. It does matter what your programming look like. Your programming should be phased, it should be structured and organized. You should be using progressive overload, which means doing a little bit more or lifting heavier over a period of time. So if somebody has been lifting weights for a year or two, but hasn't done it exactly the right way, then we still may have to tweak the workouts too, so that we're now putting on solid muscle. And later, when we do fat loss phase, then this muscle will come out. The second thing that you have to do if you want to get toned is to feed that muscle so that it can grow, because constant calorie deficit makes it impossible for your muscle to grow. So muscle needs building material. You cannot build a house if you don't have the material. You're not gonna get a house if you only have air and nothing else, right? So that's why it is important to feed that muscle. And what do you feed that muscle with? Of course, plenty of food. So eating at maintenance is my recommendation, or even surplus, slight surplus for that building phase. But in a deficit, you just cannot build anything. And of course, another thing that's really important to keep in mind is to keep your protein intake high. There are so many studies out there that prove that even if the calories are the same, the diets that are high in protein will always give you more muscle mass, which will give you that toned look. And not to mention the other benefits of high protein, which is satiety. So when you later go into deficit, but you still keep your protein high, you are not going to be that hungry. You get that muscle tone, you recover faster from your workouts, which also means that you can put more work into your next workout. So it's really important that we get that protein high. And sometimes when people say, oh, I don't want to eat 100 grams of protein, but I do want to have muscle, then my question is, okay, do you want it then or not? It's almost like, yes, I want to make a lot of money, but I don't want to work. So you kind of have to do some of the things. So now this is the first B. Remember, I mentioned it's a BFF method that I use in my coaching for sustainable fat loss and muscle building. And this is the first B, which stands for build up, right? So we're building the muscle up by building it, by training it, and also by feeding it. Then next step for you to, if you want to get toned, is now that you have built that muscle, now you're going to reduce your body fat by going into a calorie deficit for a short period of time. And so this is the F phase, right? First was build up, and then second is F. F really stands for fat loss, and that's as simple as that. But what we have to know about fat loss is that it should be for a short period of time. You probably already are aware of that. I hope so. I really hope so. And maybe you have made that mistake in the past where you stayed in a fat loss phase for too long, stayed in a calorie deficit for too long, and then caused yourself a bunch of health issues. So yes, of course, you have to go into calorie deficit to reduce that body fat. So now the muscle that you have built with hard work and eating high protein diet and eating at maintenance or even slight surplus, now this muscle can come out when you reduce some body fat. But it cannot come out, you cannot have very good muscle definition if you don't do that fat loss. And by the way, you don't have to do it. If you just want to look bigger and you don't mind a little bit more body fat and you have solid muscle, nobody says that you have to lose that you have to go into calorie deficit. But if you want that leaner, that more toned look, then now is the time. After several months of building muscle, feeding muscle, now is a good time to do a calorie cut so that the muscle will be then revealed. All right, so we have talked about B, we have talked about F, and then we have another F, right? BFF method. And the third F is the forever phase. So the forever phase is where you hopefully then stay after you have done your muscle building and then fat loss, and now you have learned a lot in the process. Now you can go into maintenance and maintain the results that you have. Like I've talked about a bit previously too, it doesn't always mean that your weight is going to stay exactly the same. You may gain a couple of pounds, you may fluctuate a little bit, but overall you should be able to maintain your results. And this is totally doable if you learn a lot during this process. And actually, this is what it's really cool about the length of this process, like going through these phases and tracking your macros and making sure you know what you're eating and how to plan your meals, because the longer you do it, the more you learn. Versus if you took some kind of crash diet that doesn't teach you anything, it's just 3 weeks of really extreme something, you don't learn anything. You don't learn anything for the future. And so that's why the forever phase is not going to happen. And just recently I talked to one of my new clients at a discovery call, and she said, this is exactly it. I've never learned how to do the forever phase. I just don't even know what that looks like. Everything that I have ever done has been really quick and I've gotten the results, and then I struggle because I don't know how to maintain this. So in my BFF method, I go through all these 3 phases. There's the build up, there's the fat loss, which is short, and then there's the forever phase where we're learning how you're now going to maintain results and what you have to do to just keep that same good look that you achieved when you went through these first 2 phases. Now, also, it's important to know how you're not going to get that toned look that you want to get. And these are the things that so many women are doing wrong. So the first thing is that you should not be rushing into a deficit without building muscle first. And this is very common because we have this super like shiny object in front of us, and this is the number on the scale. And when we put all the focus on that only, then we likely choose a method that gets the body weight down but doesn't really care about the muscle mass. So if you rush into a deficit without taking those 2-3 months of building really solid muscle, then yes, you may lose body weight and probably lose a little bit of body fat too, but you're also going to lose muscle mass because you didn't keep it up. And this is what you don't want, because now when the scale goes down, you're still going to look the same, maybe a little bit smaller. The next thing that you don't want to do if your goal is to get toned is to eat in a calorie deficit continuously all the time. And sometimes I see really extreme cases where the calories are around 1,000 or 1,200, which is obviously really, really low and less than most people's BMR, based on metabolic rate. But sometimes I see that this calorie deficit is not as extreme, but it's still calorie deficit. So, for example, your calorie deficit is 300 calories less than your maintenance level, which, it's not a bad deficit if you do it for a short period of time. But now if you're going on already third year on the same in same deficit, or not even 3 years, gosh, if it's only 6 months even, and you are still in this minus 300 calories and nothing is changing anymore, then you are still in the deficit. You have been there for too long. And this is, I promise you, I know that you have not gotten the results that you want. If you want to have the muscle tone, you don't have it right now because you have been in deficit for too long. And like I said earlier, in order to build muscle, we have to train muscle and we have to also feed the muscle. The next thing that prevents you from getting that toned body is doing a lot of doing a lot of cardio to burn calories quickly. The only thing that we focus on is the watch on our wrist that tells us, or the Oura ring that tells us, yes, you burn 500 calories with this workout. And then if you choose your weight workouts based on the calorie number, then you are on the wrong path, because we have to think ahead. We have to think ahead. What does this workout give me? What is the end result? Is it the instant thing? Am I focusing on the instant calorie burn, or am I focusing on the long-term effects? And if you focus on the long-term effects, you choose resistance training, and you can always sprinkle in a little bit of cardio. I don't have an issue with that. But if you only focus on calorie burning, then you likely choose cardio. And this is how you're going to run off all your muscle too, in addition to burning some body fat. I'm a perfect example of that. This is exactly how I went to body when I first started losing body weight. I just did a lot of cardio. I was really thin, you guys. I was really thin. And I know that many of you maybe, it can go a little bit different for you. It doesn't necessarily happen for everybody that they get really thin from it. Some people actually start gaining weight. There are a lot of reasons for that. One of it may be that you are then underestimating the calories that you're taking in and overestimating the amount of calories that you're eating. It can also be that after a little while, your body just gets so used to it. It just adapts to cardio. And then if your calories are super, super low, then your body starts going in the opposite direction. It starts storing fat. So for me, actually, this didn't happen. I was relatively young. I think my body responded well and quickly, but I got really thin. So I was really, really thin. I was nothing like I am right now, which is, I'm not like the most muscular person in the world, but I do have this muscle mass. Back then in my early 20s and mid 20s, when I did all this, I was just so thin and I had no muscle definition. You could just take my arm and like pinch it, and it's like there's just bone, right? My legs were so, so thin. It was like I was like a stick figure. It was really small. I definitely didn't have any muscle definition. My butt was super flat. I mean, it's nothing like, it wasn't at all the way it is now. And it was just all about like being the thinnest version of me. And now I just know how unhealthy it was. And back then, even though I knew it was unhealthy, I just closed my eyes to the fact. I was like, I just want to be really thin. But wasn't healthy, wasn't also sustainable. And looking back, it didn't look good. However, I always say that, whatever your preference is physique wise, it's your right to have that if you like that body type, whatever. But for me personally, looking back, I just see how sick that really was, and how unhealthy and how not sustainable. And it was driven also by really wrong reasons. I was really insecure and I thought that the smaller the better. And this is definitely not what I believe in anymore. Right now, I believe much more in what's healthy, what actually makes me feel good, and also tends to be a lot more empowering. Let me tell you, there's so much more empowerment in being strong, being feeling just like solid in your body, feeling strong in your body, versus being really like thin and kind of trying to hide from everything. It's just such a different mindset. So got a little bit off on a little tangent here, but I just felt like it was appropriate to kind of talk about that as well. So you will never get toned if you are not lifting weights. So this is my message here. And if you're always in a calorie deficit, also not going to get toned, because remember the BFF method. It is build up first, then fat loss, right? It's not the opposite way. It's not like start losing fat. You got to build it up first, especially if you are new to lifting, and especially if you have been focusing maybe too much on cardio. You have to build first. So also another reminder, and really, really important one, is that getting toned is not a 1 month project. It really isn't. And I think it's the crash diets, the time mentality world that has led us to believe that everything should be achieved really instantly, and it's not required to invest your time and money and energy into something that you want to get. It's just like everything has to be super, super fast. I mean, we know how short everybody's attention span is these days. And also, just like one shiny object after the next one is just a big competition. Okay, what diet am I going to jump next on? Whatever gives me the fastest results, right? But this is not how it really works. If you want to see a good body composition change, if you want to get what people call toned, then you have to commit to at least 6 months, I would say, before you can start seeing results. Of course, you can start seeing results, 2 months in, 3 months in, you start seeing them, but significant change where like, okay, things have really changed now and I feel different and I look different. This is going to take you about 6 months. And it always depends on your starting point too. If you're already lifting, if you're already eating higher calories, your build-up phase is not going to be that long. Or maybe in very rare cases, people don't even need that. They already have the foundation in place and they can go into fat loss. However, this is very rare. But if it happens, then you're going to see results sooner. But if you're somebody who either hasn't worked out at all, has been eating in a deficit, uh, or is doing the workouts that are not helpful for muscle building, meaning lots of cardio, boot camp stuff like that, your journey is going to be longer, and you absolutely are going to need that 6 months. So I want you to just be ready for it and think, does it fit your time and schedule and lifestyle right now? Because if you're like, no, like I have a lot of other things to do and I just don't have energy for it and time for it and finances for it, then yeah, maybe it's not the best time. But at the same time, don't also jump on a quick fix diet, because you're not going to get sustainable results in 1 month too. So I recommend that you know what you're going to do, you accept the journey, you know that it's going to be a long one, and you just put in all the effort that you can, and also learn a ton during this process. Because like I said earlier too, the longer time is actually better, because you're going to have so much time to practice, and you're going to be so much better ready for that forever phase where we're going to get eventually, where you now can do this on your own without necessarily tracking all the time. Now lifting has become your lifestyle and you're able to maintain the toned body that you once built. So I hope that this helped you. I always want to know that I have couple of really great resources for you if you don't have them yet. So one of them is called the Lean Ladies Calorie, Protein, and Workout Guide. So this guide teaches you how to figure out if you are eating at least at your maintenance, and if you are, then how you can transition into fat loss phase, deficit, or surplus phase if these are your goals. And it will also give you a workout blueprint, how to get started with structuring your own workouts and making them really good so that you get results. And I also do have Starting Macros 5-day mini course that will be sent into your inbox if you sign up for it. And also I will put the application to work with me in the description of this video. So if you're interested in that, let me know, send me your application, and I will be in touch with you soon. All right, I hope you're having a really good week, and I'll talk to you again very soon. Bye.